America show host Rob Knorr got a special, wish I was at home at my home office, but not, pre-vice presidential debate show. I think it'll be a good one. So, give you my expectations, predictions for what's going on in the debate. And then as always, if you follow me, I don't really watch the debate live on stream. I think it's sort of a waste of time because I actually like to watch the debaters as opposed to listen to some fat bearded guy like myself talk over them. So I'll watch the debate. I'll get on X and post some things during the debate, and then I'll be back with the after debate show to give my analysis of what happened. So exciting night, exciting, barring anything crazy happening and me having to do some work stuff or anything like that. But I am back, Tristan, it's right. Streaming from the phone. It's been a busy week, I know. I'm like a broken record. I always say I wish I could stream more, I wish I had more time. It's really difficult this time of year, as I've explained, with my work. We got like our yearly audits that are coming up, so just a ton of paperwork. Yeah, man, what a crazy days. My goodness, I haven't talked about Hurricane Helene. My thoughts and prayers go out to the people that have been affected by that. Absolute insanity. Look, politics aside, of course, we talk about politics on this show. Politics are important. But I oftentimes talk on this show about how there are things more important than that, particularly your personal life, your family connections. For me, it's being a husband, being a father, being a good son, being a good brother, being a good neighbor. Those things are important to me. I think that's more important. That will be the mark that I leave on the world more than anything I do politically, I think. These stories, I don't care if it's in a predominantly Republican area, Democrat area, when you hear these stories, whether it be tragedies of military conflicts, natural disasters, etc., it's heart-wrenching to hear these stories of people that are affected. So once more, we have another one of those with this Hurricane Helene. And I know particularly the people of North Carolina are really going through a rough time right now. So my thoughts and prayers to all of them. We will talk politics, but from the bottom of my heart, I don't care who's in charge, who's president, who's governor, who the local politicians are. I hope that this gets done with as little as impact as possible to the people of North Carolina and elsewhere that were affected by this, with as few deaths as possible, with as few lives ruined as possible. So the same could be said of the conflicts that we see around the world. I know these things occur a lot. Something that I struggle, we'll get to the VP, I'm just stalling for time. We'll get to the VP debate here. Something I really struggled with, particularly when I was younger, if you really focus on the negatives of the world, it's never ending. It really is. It's easy to get super pessimistic. Famine around the world, disease around the world, conflicts around the world, human trafficking. And so sometimes I feel that you lose, particularly someone like me that streams, maybe it seems like I'm not taking certain events that seriously. And it is true. There are events that I don't talk about that are occurring in the United States and around the world that are human tragedies. And so seeing so much of it. And in addition to that, it's just been a weird week for even famous people dying. One of my favorite basketball players that I remember from when I was young, Mutombo, just passed away. The father, I don't even know this gentleman's name, unfortunately, but I remember watching Good Times late at night. And he was also in the movie Coming to America. The father from Good Times, he passed away. The guy from American Pickers, which did a show a couple years ago with a family that I know that lives sort of near where my brother does, he passed away. Chris Christopherson, one of my favorite country musicians, fantastic actor, he passed away. It's been so many. So since I've last talked to you, a lot of crappy stories, and I hope anyone who's going through a personal difficult situation or any of those sorts of situations that's affected. Pete Rose, of course. When is this starting? The debate starts at 9 p.m. So I'll get to that in a second. So all of that, my thoughts and prayers go out to all of those affected, for real. But we are going to talk politics. It is a political night. Arguably the most important vice presidential debate in modern history, or at least I'm 40, since I've been paying attention to politics. I started sort of looking at politics probably by the time I was 20, so for about 20 years. Obviously focused more in the past 10 years or so. I think the reason, it's very simple why this is the most important VP debate. Two reasons. One, it's because this election is going to be close, and it's a very important election, which I don't have to tell you all why, but also because unlike all the other VP debates I've seen in my lifetime, there will not be a presidential debate that follows this. So normally the way it goes is you have a presidential debate, then a VP debate, and then two more presidential debates. And oftentimes it's very difficult to even remember thinking past any moments of notoriety or important moments that occurred in the VP debates, because oftentimes if something's contradiction or a big moment occurs in one of the presidential debates that follow the VP debate, it just gets lost in the shuffle. And clearly the VP debate's not going to be as important in general as the presidential debates, because the VP is not as important of a position. But seeing as how this is the final chance for these two campaigns to sort of go toe-to-toe, I think that this makes this debate important. Now, the debate's supposed to start at 9 p.m. Anyone in the audience, if I'm incorrect about that, please let me know. But I did check it on the television here. It looks like it's going to be on CBS at 9 p.m. I will not be streaming the debate. I will go up until almost the debate begins, and then I will turn my stream off, and then I will go watch the debate. And then once the debate's over, usually an hour and a half to close to 2 hours, you'll see me after that. So the reasons for that's twofold. One, I don't have a computer here, so it's impossible for me to stream it. I'm not going to hold my phone up to the television for y'all to watch. And second, I don't like streaming the debate because I think that it's not fair to you, the audience, because I'll be talking over the debate, and so I'm not going to hear it as well as I would like, and you're not going to hear the debaters as well as you would like. So I choose to watch it on my own. I think the times that I've tried to do commentary, either in a panel setting or as an individual over a debate that was occurring live, it's a huge mistake. So we're going to do it this way. Pre-show, and then analyzing the debate afterwards. That's the plan. So if you're just catching up with me, first off, if you're watching, if you can give a thumbs up, that'd be great. Unless you hate me, then you could give me the proverbial thumbs down in the chat. That's fine. Thumbs down's fine too. But it helps with the algorithm if you give a thumbs up. So I hate to bug people, but thank you for those that are watching. If you're just new to me or you didn't catch it, this show will be very similar to the presidential debate that I did between Harris and Trump, where it was a similar situation, where I was not at my home office, and so we did the debate this way. In that debate, I had predicted, anyone who watched live, in fact, that's still up on my YouTube channel, you could go check it out, the pre-debate show and the post-debate show. I had predicted that I thought Kamala Harris would do better than Donald Trump. I said that I thought both would do rather poorly, but I thought that Harris would not flounder as well as Trump. I know that much of my audience who are Trump supporters, as I am myself, I'm voting for Trump, disagree with my conclusion that I think that's exactly how it played out. I think Kamala didn't do great. I think she failed in a lot of things, but I thought Trump got baited and did worse. I thought it was uniquely a positive opportunity for Trump because the Biden or the Harris-Walz campaign has been hiding so much that was the opportunity for the American people to see how she would hold up under opposition. And I felt that he was baited and it didn't do very well. So keep that in mind as I give my predictions and my expectations for this debate tonight. I am quite confident that J.D. Vance will do very well tonight and will win this debate. Now, what does winning the debate mean? It's not the style debate I did in college where there's literally a judge that will say, you win and you lose. Obviously, that's not what occurs. So to win the debate, there are two ways to look at it. Objectively, from my perspective, who do I think did better? And then, which side accomplished the goals they were looking for best in the debate? So if you go back to the Trump-Biden debate, clearly Trump wins because even though Trump left things on the table, the American people got to see how bad the cognitive decline of Joe Biden was, and that was it. That was the nail in the coffin for Biden. That's a clear win for Trump. That's as clear as a win of a debate as you ever see when it comes to not just the objective, me looking at it, but subjectively, as far as what an audience thought. Overwhelmingly, the audience clearly thought that Trump won that. So each of these debates, they have goals. And I'm trying to look at this as to what is the goal of each side. Now, I still think that this is going to be a remarkably close campaign. I think that the election is going to be remarkably close. And so what do each side need to accomplish in this VP debate tonight? So first I'll give some predictions, then I'll give what each side needs to, wants to accomplish with this. And we'll go sort of in that order. So my first prediction will be the easiest prediction, and that is I think that both Walz and Vance will both outperform both Trump and Kamala Harris. I think that it's not difficult. I think both Trump and Harris have a pretty low bar set for that first debate. But I think Walz is at least more intelligent than Kamala Harris, and he'll be able to formulate sort of thoughts and advocate positions in a coherent way that eludes Kamala Harris. Even in that debate, Kamala Harris's strong suit for that debate was she was instructed very good at how to bait Trump, and she could repeat a few key phrases. That's it. That's all you could expect from Kamala Harris. She's basically just an empty suit that will do whatever her handlers tell her. I think Walz is better than that. Walz is someone who has some amount of charisma and that he's able to sort of articulate positions. So he's going to do better than Kamala Harris. I think J.D. Vance is a very, very intelligent person. No, it's not a new camera. I'm just on my phone. So I'm at my work office, so I don't have a computer here. I think J.D. Vance is a very intelligent person. I've watched at least one of J.D. Vance's previous debates. I thought he was a very good debater. I think most of the time you see Walz's interactions with people on the media, he's doing remarkably well. And so I fully expect Vance to get the better of Walz. I think he's smarter. He is a better debater. He'll be better at on-the-fly sort of interacting back and forth than Walz. So that's my expectation coming in. I will give you as honest as an opinion as I can following the debate. I'll stream again, and I'll let you know who I thought won, where the strong suits were, grade each participant. So I'm not going to run from it. If Vance gets crushed, I'll say, hey, I think Vance lost, and I expected him to do well. So I'm being as definitive as possible. I know a lot of people tried to sort of say, when I gave my predictions for the last debate, the Harris-Trump debate, they said, you were too wishy-washy beforehand. You said you thought they would both do poorly. That was my honest feeling. So I think that Vance, I'm expecting to be head and shoulders above Walz in this debate. Now, the next prediction I'll make is I think the moderation will still be skewed, but it will not be as bad as the ABC moderators, which were among the worst that I've ever seen as far as putting their thumb on the scale for one side, clearly going all in to help Kamala Harris. Now, I do expect the questions to be slanted towards being beneficial to Walz, but I don't think it'll be remarkably terrible. I expect some level of bias. We all have bias. Clearly, CBS is biased for another establishment candidate, the Harris-Walz ticket. And so I expect there'll be a lot of questions that are more pointed to sort of the personal proclivities of J.D. Vance, such as his remarks about Trump in the past, not liking Trump, Trump being Hitler. That question will be brought up. There'll be, I predict, some January 6th type thing. There'll be, will you and Donald Trump accept the results of the election? Those sorts of questions. And those questions are all skewed towards trying to benefit Walz. I don't think you'll see as much of those type of questions directed at Walz. There might be a, hey, you lied about, sort of stolen valor type questions. It won't be worded like that. Ultimately, though, I don't expect, it's an easy prediction, I don't expect the moderation to be as bad as it was. If you're J.D. Vance, you have to expect the moderation to be terrible. Expect the worst. If I'm J.D. Vance and I'm walking into this, I don't think the couch thing will be brought up by the moderators. Walz might bring it up, but I don't think the moderators will bring it up. I think that Vance, who is a competent debater and intelligent person, he has the ability to prepare more than, say, a Kamala Harris. Like, preparation for Trump is this. Don't take the bait. Stick to your record, right? Don't get too much into the sort of the showman aspect, making fun of Harris. It's okay to have a joke or two, but don't take the bait. Focus on these key points. That's sort of, it's not that Trump's not intelligent. It's that he is such a showman who could talk off the cuff, similar to me. Like, I could talk off the cuff for 4 or 5 hours. Now, I'm not saying I'm to the level of Trump or anything like that, but one of the things that's my weakness is when I'm in a debate and there's sort of a time limit, you can only say so much. You can't just talk extemporaneously for 4 hours on, like, let's talk about the border for 4 hours. And so Trump, you have to, when you're prepping him, you have to rein him in. Don't get distracted. Hit these key points. Kamala Harris, it's all about, like, just don't blow up. Memorize a couple of lines. JD Vance is better than that in this debate setting. So I think that his preparation needs to be sort of like focused on some data points and some general theory that he has, general points that he wants to hit. But then also prepare for sort of the negativity that's going to come your way. So if I was coaching JD Vance, I would have made sure at some point to let him know, you have to be prepared for the moderators to operate on the other side. And be prepared to say, look, I think you're wrong. We're not surprised. The moderation's always like this. Would you like to have a podium next to Walz there? Now, you don't want to make those sorts of comments unless it's warranted. So if it's one or two skewed questions, fine. But if it's constant interruption of you or fact-checking of you, he should be prepared to make those sort of arguments. And I think one area that Trump comes out in that first debate that was strong for him was, even though I didn't like his performance that much, it did look to many people, myself, and even not just Trump supporters, but even people that are sort of more neutral, that it was 3 against 1, that the moderation was jumping in. And so that's a very strong position to be in. And I think that's one of the reasons the moderators will be more reasonable today, because perceptually, if they jump in on the behalf of Walz and Vance does a good job at sort of pushing back on that, that looks very strong to an undecided voter. It looks like JD Vance is a very competent person that's holding his... So I don't look for that to occur. There is zero chance that the moderation is skewed against Tim Walz. That's the nature of being a Democrat. That's the nature of being pro-establishment. All of these institutions, including our propagandist mainstream media, are in the bag for you. So I don't even have to give advice on that. Where will their areas of attack be? If I'm Walz, what I'm trying to do is lay the groundwork, not necessarily for JD Vance being weak, but you want to continually play to the fears that people have of Donald Trump's character. That's what Walz is going to try to do tonight. And I think he will do that. The debate's at 9 p.m., so like 40 minutes or so. That's going to be the goal. Both sides need to understand that although it's okay to attack your opponent and talk about, if you're Walz Vance or if you're Vance talk about Walz, it's more about going after the presidential candidate. And because the record is something that's not very popular with Harris, for example, most people, when it comes to issues of immigration, the economy, etc., they feel the record of Trump's 4 years are better than the Harris-Biden 4 years. And so where Harris and Walz get their advantage is talking about things like abortion, which they're going to talk about heavily, and talking about how the character of Donald Trump is flawed. He is a threat to democracy. He is a dangerous authoritarian. He's a fascist that tried to overthrow and have a coup again. Those are the sorts of attacks that you'll see Walz hammer home on. And strategy-wise, that is smart for him to do. Now, he has to play defense. He has to make arguments as to why the economy, why the border is sort of a problem right now, and why we shouldn't blame Harris for the last 4 years. And it's an odd strategy that the Democrats are trying to employ. Now, they're able to get away with it because they control so much of the narrative, because all of these institutions are basically on their side. So Harris is running this incumbent, non-incumbent campaign. So anything good that people might like of the past 4 years, it's like, yeah, I was there. Now I'm part of that. Joe Biden says I was an integral part of the team. I was the last person in the room for most of these topics. But then she's also running as the candidate of change. She's saying, oh, things will be different. It's time to change. It's time to move forward. And so Walz has to today, and the reason this falls on Walz is, again, I don't think Harris did a good job of telling people that are undecided or people that are unenthusiastic, where is that differentiation? Like, what part, exactly who are you? Exactly what are your policies? Coming out of that Harris-Trump debate, who knows? And I don't think they've done a good job of explaining them. Her values haven't changed. We can see all of these things she said about banning fracking, Green New Deal, equity, race-based stuff, all of this stuff, the border. And if her values haven't changed, why have the policies changed? Where's the change? And so look for Walz to differentiate in some way. And a way to do it, I think that would be smart, is to just say something like this. Look, she's grown up a lot in the past 4 years, and that's why she brought me on. And we have a team behind us, and we understand the unique challenges that we're facing now. And that's what politicians do. And that's what people with integrity do. When you grow and you're in the job, you see the unique challenges and you're able to adapt to those challenges. And so we understand that a lot of those policies that the values of Kamala Harris had that came from a good place, being concerned about people, wanting to be as open as possible to people all around the world and people that are struggling, those values still exist. But we also understand the unique challenges of keeping this country safe and that we have to have borders. And we understand that there's been difficult economic times for people, but a lot of that's because of the Trump administration, because of the ridiculous spending they did and the mishandling of COVID. When people look back to the 4 years, by the way, this isn't me, this is what Walz should be saying. When people look back and say, I remember 4 years ago being better than where we're at now, do you? Do you remember the lockdowns? Do you remember where you were 4 years ago, October? Do you remember what that summer was like? That was Trump's mishandling of COVID. And that's why we're in this position now. He failed as a leader in this key area, and that's where our economy's been hampered. And yes, Harris has done a phenomenal job of trying to deal with that for the past 4 years. Was everything perfect? Of course not. But she's learned. She's been a leader. She's got wiser. That's where Walz should be sticking. Going on offense on abortion, going on offense of Trump's this maniac guy, going on offense of saying, and even J.D. Vance knows it, look at his comments that he made back in 2016 about how Trump was this maniac, he's like Hitler, and then play defense and explain to people, listen, we understand that everything's not roses right now. There's a lot of challenges around the world at the border, economic. That's what Walz needs to do. He doesn't want to take the bait and fall into sort of talking about, stolen valor and things like that. If those attacks are made, which I think they should only be made very limited by J.D. Vance, if those attacks are made, he should just be like, look, I'm here to talk about the real struggles that people have right now. The people affected by Hurricane Helene. The people that, had their right to choose taken away. The, conflicts that are occurring around the world. People trying to afford groceries. That's what I'm here to talk about, not these things. And that's what he should do. And he should stay on that message and always try to default back to sort of those three main points. Now listen, this style of debate is different than maybe a conversation that I'm having, like if Pisco comes on and we have sort of unlimited time, we'll talk 4 or 5 hours. Those are oftentimes getting into minute details on specific topics. This is different. When you're doing a debate like this, where you're talking in 2-3 minute chunks, what you really want to do is have a central theme that's running across all of your talking points. And so that's what he needs to do. Trump's a danger to democracy, and Vance knows it. Trump's a danger for women's rights. And then on defense, look, Kamala Harris was there. She has exhibited being a great leader. Of course, there are challenges, but we're going to move forward, and these challenges are the result of Trump's failed policies in the past. That's it. That's where he should focus. Where should J.D. Vance focus? Vance, I think, is in a unique position, just like Trump was, where the people believe, almost all polling shows, and I think it's just objectively true, that the country was in a better direction for the overwhelming majority of Trump's tenure than it was the Harris-Biden tenure. And so Vance wants to connect Kamala Harris to Joe Biden's failed policies. That's the goal. Everything that he talks about, the economy, the border, foreign policy, all of it should be focused on, were you doing better in 2019, 2020? You were. The disastrous policies of the Harris-Biden ticket have failed on every level. All they've done is spend, 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 open the borders, disastrous foreign policy decisions. We're closer to World War III today than we've been since the Cold War. The border is wide open. They're bringing in people and shipping them from countries that have all sorts of problems into small communities, completely changing the makeup of rural communities, of suburban communities, even of urban communities. They don't care about the people of this country. They want to reshape this country. They care more about sending money to Israel and Iran and Ukraine than they care about the people struggling in this country right now. The policies of Donald Trump, maybe you don't like the man. He's not everyone's cup of tea. I get that. Maybe you feel the same about me or Walz or Harris. That's all fine. Everyone has their personal opinions on people's personal lives. But were the policies of Donald Trump better? Yes. This country was going in a phenomenal direction. It was handed off to Harris, and she failed spectacularly. That's the theme of J.D. Vance today. Yes, you could make specific attacks on Walz, but they must be short and quick. Because what the American people are going to be voting on isn't Walz versus Vance, it's Harris versus Trump. And so the attacks should predominantly be against Harris. And the best attack isn't to make fun of her laugh, isn't even to make fun of sort of all these other things that we could have heard. It's to connect her, to make her wear around her neck this administration. They're running as candidates of change. Why? Because they know that the American people know that they have failed. And so now she has to pretend that she wasn't the last person in the room. Heck, Biden just gave a speech on The View the other day talking about how Harris was integral in all of these policies. She says her values haven't changed. That's why she picked Walz as our VP. Look at what he was saying during the lockdowns, locking people down. Look at what he was saying during the riots, talking about defunding the police. Look at the disastrous foreign policy. Now we find out from a whistleblower all of these connections Walz has to China, our biggest geopolitical enemy. Everything they accuse us of is what they do. Iran is trying to help them get elected. Hacking our material, sending it to them. Remember in 2016 when that was the biggest deal in the world? If Russia allegedly did this, well, now we have them doing it, plus all of their connections to places like China. And look at the world on fire. We had historic peace deals in the Trump administration and a world on fire under a Harris administration. Who would want 4 more years? That's it. That's the line. Connect. That is the central point that he should make. And the key points that he should hit are the economy, immigration, and the precipice of World War III. Those are the key points that he should be making. But connect to this current administration. The defense that he needs to play. He needs to have an answer to the negative things he said about Trump in the past. Part of it was hyperbole when I was talking about how bad Trump would be, but part of it was because I foolishly believed the lies of the mainstream media. And what I've come to realize about Trump is that he's not a traditional politician. He's someone that speaks from the heart. He is passionate, and he cares about average people in this country, the working class. And that's how he speaks, because those are the people that he has an affinity for. Does that mean somehow sometimes he's hyperbolic or sometimes that he gets specific details wrong? Sure. But he wasn't the monster that was painted by almost 8 years of our FBI, of the Democrats, of our mainstream media, and pretty much every institution in this country. So that's on me, my mistake. But I have grown, and I've personally talked to the man, and I've worked with him, and I see what a great person he is, and how deeply he cares about this country. He's looking at his life being ruined because he got involved in politics because of the corruption that people like the Harris administration have exhibited. That's how he should be answering that sort of question. As to talk about Walz sort of, I do think that it's fair game to talk about the trans issue at some point. That is an issue that should be brought up. And I think that it's fair to go after Walz in this. I will be watching the debate, but I won't be streaming it. So I will watch the debate and then I'll come back on and stream post-debate. I'll be tweeting about it, but I will not be watching it because I don't have a computer to stream, and also I don't like streaming the debates because then I'm talking over the debaters and I like to listen to them. So, and I think Walz will stay on message. I think Vance will stay on message. I think Walz will, and this is something I didn't mention with Walz, he will try to bait. He will talk about Donald Trump's a criminal. He will talk about won't accept the results of an election. Vance needs to quickly answer that. This was lawfare. The cases against Trump, this felony case is absurd. It's basically being conducted by people who all but ran on the promise of getting Donald Trump. The case is a joke. But the reason they're doing this is because they know they can't defend their record. They can bring up trumped up charges on anyone, and they will, because they can't defend their record. Are you feeling better at the end of the day buying groceries? Because they're coming up with novel legal theories to go after Donald Trump? Is that helping you? I know it's hard to sift through this stuff. As a person who's working 9 to 5, who's raising kids, it's difficult. And the buzzwords of Trump convicted of felonies, Trump threat to democracy, it sounds good. But these are the same people that lied to you about Joe Biden's mental health. It's the same people that lied to you about the economy being great and the border being secure. They were telling you just weeks ago how finally we have a president who's brilliant in foreign policy, who's reining Iran in. That's who they are. They can't run on their policy, so they have to control the narrative. And that's what this is. I'm here to talk. It's a simple election. Was your life better under Donald Trump than it is now? Yes. You had more money in your pocket. That money went further. The border was more secure. There wasn't all this crazy trying to indoctrinate your children. Your daughters can't play sports because they're advocating biological men being put in them. Just like my opponent here wants tampons in boys' restrooms in high schools. They're teaching sexuality to our children. The world's being lit on fire as our enemies have no respect whatsoever. Yep, gas prices, yep. And where's the Harris administration? More concerned with people that don't live in this country. Bringing in more people from countries like Haiti. Sending more money overseas. How are the people of Maui? We're talking Iran, Israel? How about Palestine? Palestine, Ohio. Where was Harris for that? That's the issues that Vance should focus on. And I think that Vance is a very intelligent man. I think that he'll come across as such. And I am 90% sure that the people around him that have been prepping him for this debate have had a message that was very similar. So that's the strategy that I would employ. Now, clearly I'm biased. I want Vance to do better. I want Trump-Vance to win. But I tried to be honest as possible, giving what I think would be an effective strategy for Walz as well. Ultimately, although I think this will be, just by the nature of it, one of the most important VP debates in our country's history, because there's no presidential debate after it. So it's each side's last opportunity to sort of label their opponent. I don't know how much it'll move the needle. I would say there's only a 10% to a 20% chance that this really has any great effect. Now, there's always a chance. In general, I would say presidential debates and VP debates, it's only got move the needle a small percentage. However, the Trump-Biden debate ended Biden. I think that was a contingency plan. They wanted to get rid of Biden anyway, so it just helped them to have the early debate to usher him out. Imagine if that debate performance by Biden occurred like next week instead. And so Biden remained the candidate and then had that disastrous debate performance in October. It would have been game over. That's why they wanted that debate early, because they knew about Biden. Look, if he could stumble through the debate and just do one and then be done, maybe they would have kept Biden. But he couldn't. So he's gone. It's another attack that Vance should make when they say that Trump's a threat to democracy. Harris and the entire Democratic Party and the media lied to the American people. Not just my supporters, not just Republicans or independents, but specifically to Democrats. They did not trust Democrat voters to make the right decision that they wanted. And by right decision, it's what Harris wanted. It's what the Democrats leadership want, what Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They knew that they had to lie to the American people during the primary, or else you may not have chosen their candidate of choice. You didn't have a voice. Maybe you'd have went with someone else. Maybe the Democrats would have went with Pete Buttigieg. Maybe they would have went with RFK. Maybe they would have went with Marianne Williamson. Who knows? But you didn't have a voice. There was no Democratic election because they lied. And then once the primary was over, they said, okay, now you got to go out. And everybody knows they're lying right now. They know that they forced Biden out. Biden didn't do it voluntarily. That's the threat to democracy. That's how they run things. Kamala Harris won't be running the show. Tim Walz won't be running the show. It'll be people behind the scenes that you didn't vote for. That's what the establishment's about. And that's why they've come after Donald Trump so vigorously. Even after assassination attempts, they can't let up. Why? Because he represents the will of the American people. Not shadowy people in shadowy rooms that don't care about you and only care about enriching themselves and their friends and people around the world, their global agenda. That's the argument he should make against this Democratic line, the threat to democracy line. It's also important for both sides in opening statements to sort of give a roadmap of where they're going to go. So Walz needs to say, Trump's a threat to democracy. He's a terrible person. He's a felon. He wants to control women's bodies. He wants to help the rich. He doesn't care about the average person. And Vance needs to be saying, this is about records. It's about the Harris record for the last 4 years versus the Trump record for 4 years before that. The economy was better. The border was better. The world wasn't on, it had historic peace deals instead of being on the verge of World War III. Harris voter there. Nice to see you, Kevin. Thanks for tuning in, even though you're a Harris voter. Listen, one thing you'll know about me is I think this election is very important. I think that if the establishment wins this time, it'll make things much more bleak going forward. I do not begrudge anyone voting for Kamala Harris that will make them an enemy of me or anything like that. I think you're making a poor decision. Hopefully you'll tune into me more before you have your vote, and maybe I can persuade you not to vote for Kamala Harris, even if it's not for Donald Trump to not vote for Harris. But I don't dislike you because you're voting for a candidate that I don't like. In fact, to the chagrin of many of the people that watch me, even some of the more vocal people that I debate that are on the other side, I don't hate them. So, yeah. Now, I might make fun of you, and some days I have days where I'm like bipolar and I'm just yelling at people that I disagree with, but I don't wish any ill will. Yeah, Walz absolutely will try to bait. And Walz is going to try everything possible. Just like if you watch that panel I was on the Hippy Dippy, same thing, right? I go back and watch that. I tried to do that debate exactly how I thought Trump should have done his debate versus Harris. Stick to the records. My opening statement was like, my opponents will want to talk about racism and January 6th and all of it. Trump's a criminal. Anything possible to not talk about the records of Harris versus Trump. But if you look at the economy, you look at the border, you look at foreign policy, Trump was better in all three. Those are the things people are concerned with. And then what did predictably my opponents do? But January 6th. And of course, some of the people on my side took the bait. Started talking about that stuff. It's very simple. Focus on the record. That's it. Tie Walz and Harris to the Biden administration. And it's hilarious because all the rhetoric you've heard for 4 years, oh, Biden's one of the greatest presidents of all time. His record is impeccable. Then why are all the Democrats that told you that running from his record? Because they know it's a losing issue. If they believe what they say, they'd be like, that's great. We hope it is just a referendum. 4 years of Trump versus 4 years of Harris. Yeah, which was better? But they don't want that. They know. They know their gaslighting only went so far. And so they have to make it about Donald Trump's personal life. Donald Trump's a felon. Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. That's what they'll do. So I don't think that this will ultimately, I think that it will be a close debate. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think Vance will stand head and shoulders above Walz. But like, I think I'll come away thinking Vance had somewhere between an A and a B, like somewhere a B, B plus, A minus A, somewhere in that ground. And I think Walz won't do terrible. I think Walz will probably do around anywhere from a C plus to a B minus. And so that's ultimately where I think it'll be. So, you know, in that world, it'll be, the media will be spinning that Walz won. It was clear cut, blah, 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 blah. JD Vance is weird. He's unlikable. That's what the narrative will be. He lied. They'll fact check JD Vance and not Walz. He just lied the whole time and the moderators should have fact checked him more. And he's weird. He's just a weird guy. And Walz is so down to earth. He's redefining masculinity. And that's, of course, the spin afterwards. So I encourage everyone to watch it yourself, come to your own conclusions yourself before you watch the spin. I will be giving my impression of the debate immediately following the debate. So if you're watching now, come back after the debate. I'll be streaming again. And so I won't be watching CNN or Fox News. Now, I will be tweeting out as the debate's going on, so I'm sure I'll see some tweets. But I'll try to give you my honest, unfiltered opinion that hasn't been influenced by other people's review of the debate as much. And then it'll be fun to see, how that spin occurs. But I think this will be close enough that both sides will say their guy won, no problem, and then it'll be sort of, So, what they're trying to do is drive up enthusiasm for their base and reach out to those undecided independent voters is what they're trying to do. So my opinion and most of your opinions probably isn't really the audience for this debate necessarily, because most of us have probably already made up our mind. Chances are, if you're the type of person watching a political streamer like myself right now before a debate, that you're interested enough in politics that you've probably more informed to have already made up your mind and decide you're going to vote for Harris or Trump already. So this is more of motivating people that are like, I would vote for Trump or I would vote for Harris, but they're maybe not going to get out election day, or the undecideds. That's what it's more about. So, part of that is, and I think that there might be a small advantage of Walz's, and I don't mean this as a negative, he's kind of folksy. Walz can seem likable, and maybe Vance seems a little more stilted. So Vance hopefully works on being a little affable and being a little lighthearted. I think that would benefit him. And I think it would benefit Walz to that as well, to sort of have that sort of approach. Because unfortunately, it's also about how you present yourself and not just about facts. So something to keep in mind. Any specific questions, points that people want to make before I head out here? So again, the debate's going to be here. It's going to start in about 15 minutes. I'm not going to be streaming during the debate. I will end this stream, and then I will be watching the debate. You can follow me at Twitter at RobNoer or at X. So ROBNOERR. I'll try to have a thread where I put everything on the thread, and I'll give my thoughts as the debate's going on. And then I'll come back here after the debate and I'll live stream again and give my thoughts on how I think the debate went down. My prediction is I think that Vance will win, but I don't think it'll be a blowout like we saw Trump versus Biden. But I'm quite confident. And I say that as someone who predicted that Harris would outperform Trump, albeit both of them not do that well, which is exactly that's what I predicted, and that's how I felt that first debate won. So I'm not just, I'm a homer, so I'm going to say that Vance is going to win. No, I just legitimately think he's more suited for. John Burke will be live streaming. Yeah, you can go to, if you don't have access to a television or if you prefer to watch it with commentary, John Burke apparently is. Do I think Iran's giving Vance an opportunity? Why would they want to? Why would Iran want Vance Trump in office? They seem to have gotten much of what they want. So no, I don't think that Iran's making any part of their calculation on what we're going to do. My mistake. I misheard what you said. I don't know. I think that all of this stuff happening simultaneously kind of shows it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Part of it, no doubt, a lot of it, like the workers' strike, the longshoremen strike, no doubt that was specifically timed to be in October before an election to put pressure on, hey, you don't want this messy shit happening if you're the Biden administration, right? Maybe the same could be said of foreign international conflicts. Look, right now, who's in charge in the United States? There's this election coming up, which is always murky, but then even beyond that, who the hell's the president? It's not Joe Biden. Right? So yeah, I think that it's certainly this past 4 or 5 days news and Hurricane Helene. Now listen, I'm a little more gracious than others. I'm not putting everything at the foot of the Biden-Harris administration when it comes to failures with Hurricane Helene. I think it's even too early to say what exactly were the failures. It is possible that even with a well-funded, competent federal government, that sometimes a disaster could occur, that it's still, there's no snap of the fingers and everything's solved immediately. And I understand Florida's done very well by appearances, and I think that that is a credit to Ron DeSantis, I really do. But also understand this. Let me give you a little story. I remember the first time that I was debating in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and there was like a half an inch of snow, and the town shut down. Like, shut down for half an inch of snow. I was like, this is a joke. I live here in northern Pennsylvania. It's nothing for us to get a foot, 2 feet of snow. We would have, I remember days it would snow like a foot and we still had school. They didn't shut down school. And then, someone was explaining to me, but they're not used to dealing with it. Even things as simple as their power lines aren't as sturdy as the power lines here. Because the power lines here will get wet and then it'll freeze. And so there's all this extra weight on them. Down south, if they get a little ice on their lines, they're breaking all the time because they're not used to it. Similarly, I think Florida is probably more prepared for hurricanes because they deal with the consequences of hurricanes quite frequently. But Asheville, North Carolina, that's so far inland and it's not like at sea level. It's going to be more difficult. Even if you say Ron DeSantis is a far better leader than Cooper or whoever the North Carolina guy is, that might be true. But if Ron DeSantis was in North Carolina, would he have had the ability, the tools around him to have as good of a response? Maybe not. So I'm trying to be a little more gracious. But were the Democrats gracious? How gracious were they during Hurricane Katrina? That's why I posted out on X. Remember the, celebrity, I don't even know what it was, like PBS or whatever, that were taking donations? And Mike Myers is there with Kanye West, and Kanye's like, George Bush doesn't care about black people. That was the line, right? Were they gracious with Trump and COVID? No, it was all his fault. It didn't matter that it was this virus. It's all Trump's fault. Remember when Biden said, all these acts of violence you're seeing, the George Floyd riots, that's all occurring under Trump. Under Trump. So why shouldn't they be held to the same standard? So I posted out on X that picture of Kanye with Mike Myers and said, Kamala Harris doesn't care about Appalachian people, or she doesn't care about white people, right? Don't care. Last debate was ABC, tonight is CBS. Why shouldn't they be held to the same standard? You think if it was Trump in office and he was vacationing at the beach and his VP was doing fundraisers with wealthy individuals and celebrities, you think the media would go light on him? Of course not. So I understand that it's hyperbolic to be like, it's all Hurricane Helene thing. It's all Biden's fault. It's sort of like the old slogan, right, about luck. You sort of make your own luck. If you're prepared, if you're putting in the hard work, then when that opportunity arises, you can take advantage of it. And it looks like luck. But actually, the only reason that luck was able to happen to you was through preparation. A lot of the times that's true with bad luck. No, not always. Sometimes you just win the lottery. Sometimes you just get in a car wreck, Good luck and bad luck could just happen even without preparation. But a lot of times, how you prepare leads to it. The Biden-Harris administration has been a joke. We don't even know who the president is. They're incompetent and corrupt. So it seems sort of random. Oh my God, what are the chances that Iran attacks and Hurricane Helene and the longshoremen strike? All of this happening in the same week. Yeah, part of that's just unlucky, but part of it's the weakness of this administration. That's what's occurring. So to answer your question, does it help? Of course it helps the opposition. Now, it's an opportunity though. Biden-Harris could knock the responses out of the park. And let me be quite clear with you. I hope they do. I would rather tomorrow we find out that everyone's been restored as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be a snap your fingers, but that the federal government's doing a tremendous job in North Carolina. I would want that. It would be my druthers that Russia leaves Ukraine immediately. That the Israel, Hamas, Palestine, Iran situation ends. That's what I want to happen as a fan of the world, as a fan of this country, that the border would be secure. But that's not what's happening. And it's not surprising. It is a failure. And make no mistake about it, if these things were occurring under a Trump administration, Trump would be being lambasted by all the same people now that are ignoring the situation. Oh, it's not really Biden's fault. It's not really Harris's fault. So, all right, I'm going to go prep for the debate, get my popcorn. I'm not going to eat popcorn, but get ready, watch the debate. So, final predictions. I think that Vance will win. I think Vance has all the tools to be a good debater. He should focus on the records of the Harris administration versus the Trump administration, how things were better, particularly focus on the economy, the border, and foreign policy. Walz needs to attack Trump as a bad person, a felon, a corrupt person, and attack them on abortion. And then run defense, set the agenda. Don't be afraid that Kamala Harris said she was going to ban fracking. She won't. She's learned. Her values are the same, that she cares about the environment. Her values are the same, that she has a big heart and cares about people. But we also understand that sometimes these difficult decisions need to be made. We need fracking right now. We need to have a secure border. And that's what growing as a politician means. That's why she's a leader. That's the focus that Walz should have. But primarily attacks on Trump's character, attacks on abortion. That's what would be my prediction. I think Vance will win, but that's my predictions going into it. So if you haven't, please give a thumbs up. I know there's 84 people watching and only 43 thumbs up. So if you like what you heard, give a thumbs up. Helps me with the algorithm. I will be back within 10 minutes of the debate ending. So if the debate ends at 11, you'll see me back by 10 after 11, right here on YouTube. So follow me on X during the debate if you want to see what my posts are at the right time. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. We'll see you after the debate. As always, have a good one.